TIL in China, wearing a green hat is a sign of mockery, and telling someone they wear a green hat is an insult. This signifies that the person is a cuck. One reason is that during the Yuan dynasty, family members of prostitutes had to wear green headscarves so the public can identify and avoid them. There's a somewhat related tradition in Western culture. A person who has been cuckolded is said to have been given horns. The bunny ear is 2 fingers above someone's head thing that kids do in pictures sometimes, or, at least, used to do, was formally used as a symbol that your wife has cheated on you. Kind of like someone sneaks up behind you and holds 2 fingers over your head as horns as a way to make fun of you. It was meant to emulate a stag horn's antlers, because in stag mating habits, when 2 stags fight, the loser gives up his mate to the winner. Back in high school, I heard Chinese exchange student friend laugh at another buddy for wearing a green cap. His English wasn't great, but he tried to explain that it meant your girlfriend cheated on you or something to that effect. Always been a personal curiosity of mine as to why such a random thing had that association. Thanks. Reminds me of when I was in elementary school and some kids would say it meant you were gay if you had a piercing on your right ear. Does that have a historical origin as well? Back in high school, I heard Chinese exchange student friend laugh at another buddy for wearing a green cap. His English wasn't great, but he tried to explain that it meant your girlfriend cheated on you or something to that effect. Always been a personal curiosity of mine as to why such a random thing had that association. Thanks. Reminds me of when I was in elementary school and some kids would say it meant you were gay if you had a piercing on your right ear. Does that have a historical origin as well? For anyone curious, the fighting words are Nile Apokani Dilumauzi. Without context, I can't imagine they'd start a fight, but they'd probably escalate a shoving match. I was watching some comedy movie Lost in Thailand in the theater, and a random green hat blew in from off screen and landed on a main character's head, and people around me burst out laughing. Someone had to explain it to me. I work for a major multinational corporation that frequently uses green as our company color. We also frequently give away company hats. Anyone working with our Chinese colleagues and customers gets training on potential cultural issues. One of the topics covered is that we should not use or wear a standard company hat, and instead use a black version made for that market. Yet another cultural marvel from China, the global leader in shitty, outdated, objectively evil behavior being excused and ignored BC their culture for thousands of years. We stopped burning witches, keeping slaves, and at least attempt to end the abuse of children in the West. When I lived in China, my Chinese tutor told me this. The whole thing, including the near homophone in Chinese. Then, on my way home from that lesson, I passed a night market and found a snapback I really like, and only a few yuan. Fluorescent green. This is actually just a turn of phrase in Chinese and is not taken literally. For example, both the Chinese army and military police uniforms include a green hat, but nobody on the street would ever point to a bunch of soldiers and say they're cucks. Family members of prostitutes had to wear green headscarves so the public can identify and avoid them. Am I the only one who finds this hilarious? I'm just imagining all the folks who had no say in it and are like, well fuck. I always found this amusing when I lived in China, as my hats are either green or tan. No one really cares much anymore though, or they didn't the 20 years ago when I lived there, and I imagine they care even less now. Recently, people in larger cities, although knowing about this concept, have been wearing green hats more and more. It's not as taboo as it used to be, but I've still never seen a green hat in a smaller part of China. Interesting. I know the phrase exists and what it means. But usually when you actually do wear a green hat out there, nobody cares unless you count your close friends might throw a cheap joke at you. It's kind of like in the US when your balls hang out of your shorts. Historically, only the very sketchiest prostitutes had their balls hanging out of their shorts. Hey, my company uses green hard hats, and one of our install guys tan into this at a job site over there. Poor guy had no idea what they were laughing about. If me, a 28-year-old white guy, walks down the street wearing a green hat and someone thinks I'm a prostitute from the Yuan dynasty, they getting a talking to lol. If I had $1 million, I'd buy you a green dress hat. But not a real green dress hat, that's cruel. How shocking to condemn people just because of a family member's decisions. Then again, that's what Israel does today when they demolish houses. However, listening to Zacine's green hat in public is one of the coolest things you can do. Victory and insult? More like an indirect but also straightforward reminder that you've been cheated on. Nobody wears it to mock someone else. That's dumb. I wonder whether it's also similar to the European idea of cuckold's horns, that the bull can see his own horns, but everyone else can. Isn't green bad luck because red is good luck? That's why red is used in so many areas that are meant to imply good fortune and success. This fact just made John Cena apologizing for calling Taiwan a country a whole lot funnier. Shame he didn't have his hat on at the time. Medieval England also had rules for what prostitutes could and couldn't wear, so that they wouldn't be confused for upstanding women. And if I had $1 million, I would buy you a green hat, but not a real green hat. That's cruel. I learned this recently too, when Chinese techno artist Suzy released an album called Green Hat. Oh, those disgusting prostitutes, I mean there's so many of them, though. What color do they wear? How can I avoid them? Damn, now I feel bad for the dude I saw at Guangzhou airport wearing a green Seattle Seahawks jersey about 5 years ago. Hello, to correct the post, wearing a green hat in Chinese basically means your woman is cheating on you, aka cuckold. I always wondered how to really insult a Chinese person. Thanks Reddit, I will keep this in my pocket ready to go. Now I want to see a prank show where people go to China and put green hats on people just to see how they react. So what you're saying is that we should start adding green hats to all the poo caricatures of Xi Jinping. I was under the impression that Confucianism was very sexually liberal, much more than Christianity anyways. Nobody gives a damn if you wear a green hat in China. It's just an old saying, not to be taken literally. Fun fact, China is figuratively wearing a green hat, when they literally paint the barren rocks green. I do the same thing in the USA with people wearing red baseball caps that say "Make America Great Again." It also means that your girlfriend/wife cheated on you, or that you cheated on your girlfriend/wife. My wife won't let me wear my bright green John Deere hat for this very reason. Love that hat. Very odd that cuck has fallen from 4chan style vulgarity to just being in the common language. It was difficult to plan a St. Patrick's Day party in the Chinese school I worked at. This signifies that the person is a cuck. Reddit, you now have your calling card. So does that mean we need to start adding a green hat to Winnie the Pooh pictures? Kind of a dumb thing to hang on to, you know? The Yuan dynasty ended in 1368. We're going streaking through the quad to the gymnasium. Bring your green hat. Note to self: if ever in China, bring Phillies gear and leave Eagles gear at home. So who was paying for said prostitutes? The people avoiding the families? Lol. I have been accused of wearing a white hat before but never a green one. Chinese people sees Irish on St. Paddy's Day. It's St. Prostitute Day. If I ever go to China, I'm finding the brightest green hat I can find. Time to get a green hat and see if my Chinese wife says anything. Lol. Note to self: do not take Green Bay Packers hat with me to China. Green hat. Green hat, how'd you get your hat so green? Green hat. This explains why the Oakland A's are China's least popular team. Well, this is just amusing. Ni Dai Lu Mao-zi, my favorite insult when I worked in China. I finally can talk shit to all those Chinese players. This is one of the dumbest things I have ever read.